Folks, the picture you see in front of you is a picture of a dunce cap. Now, it's a little long, and it does have two eye slits cut into it, but it absolutely is a dunce cap. This particular dunce cap should be worn by people like Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, and Jefferson Beauregard Sessions. Every time that they are seen in public, they should absolutely be wearing this so that there's no misunderstanding that they all are a bunch of dunces. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are not intelligent. It just means that they are a bunch of dunces. They proved that fact via the issuance of the executive order on banning Muslims from this country. Now, there are a bunch of do's and don'ts when you're composing a ban on Muslims. The first thing that you don't do, you don't involve Rudy, I'm still living on 9/11 and self-promoting myself, Giuliani, in the composition of the order. Why not? Because dumbass Rudy has a propensity of going on Fox and spilling the beans, which he did. Second, if you're going to use Rudy Giuliani, you make sure you swear him to public confidentiality so he doesn't run his mouth. Next, you don't just roll it out without review across the multiple disciplines, i.e. letting Homeland Security know what you're doing and giving them a heads up so that they can get that information out to the enforcement officers, i.e. running it past the Justice Department to make sure that it's constitutionally solid. Next, rolling it past the various heads of the committees, i.e. the judiciary committees in the House and the Senate. You make sure that you got buy-in from all of those people so that they can adequately defend your position. Next, you don't exclude people from the information such as Secretary Mathis, Secretary Kelly, or even the guy that you put out there for Secretary of State, Tillerson. I kind of think in those positions, they would and should need to know what the hell is going on. Next, you make sure that any list that you're going to generate is bulletproof and covers all of the obvious contingencies, such as people with green cards, people with special visas, such as the interpreters in Iraq that were working with the military. And specifically, you need to cover what goes down when you put the order in for people that are in transit. None of that was thought out. None of that was addressed. It took Secretary Kelly to issue specific instructions basically 2 days later to cover people who had the legal right to return to the country because they were permanent residents, i.e. they had green cards. Next, you need to make sure that all the airlines get a heads up so that they don't stop people who have the legal right to return to this country from even being able to board airlines. Now, this was so amateurishly handled that it begs credulity as far as the ability for the Trump administration to do anything right. Now, I know you've seen the pictures of people that were held up 6-8 hours at the airports. They attempted to force people to sign agreements that they could be deported expeditiously. They stole people's green cards. They basically denied people due process, i.e. access to attorneys. I mean, if you want to talk about Nazi Germany in action, over the weekend, this is a prime example of how it would look. Now the fact that they claim only 100 or so people were quote unquote inconvenienced, I call sitting in an airport 6, 8, 10, 12, 24 hours in one case slightly more than being inconvenienced. I call questioning someone and asking them what they think about Donald Trump as being not only an inconvenience, but being intrusive and attaching a political agenda to your acceptance or denial of their right to be in this country. But that's just the people that got here. What about the hundreds of people that were denied access to the country, that could not even board planes, even though they had the legal right to do so? What about the thousands of people who were inconvenienced because their aircraft happened to fly through U.S. territory, land while heading to an international destination, and people were prohibited, inconvenienced, and questioned before they were allowed to get back on the plane that they were flying on to leave U.S. territory? No, I don't call that inconvenience. I call that straight out fascism. I call that Donald Trump being out of control and nobody willing to step up to the plate in order to rein him back in. Thank God our judiciary saw the folly of this executive order and issued a temporary stay of the order, and actually not even of the entire order, just certain portions of the order, to protect people that had the right to be here and were already on U.S. soil. This shit is getting serious. Now, the next thing you're going to probably see is Donald Trump trying to institute some type of a Muslim monitoring program, all in the name of a safety of the American people. If he gets away with that one, the next thing that you're going to probably see is everybody that is not white or easily identified as white having to walk around with papers proving that they are U.S. citizens or have the legal right to be here, i.e. green cards for people who are foreign nationals but have gone through vetting processes, and birth certificates for those of us who were actually born here, and not just birth certificates, some type of a picture ID that's government approved. Okay, folks, the saga continues.